of welcoming and introductions. First of all, Claire Hall, our programme manager for placement experience and improvement.
Hi.
Yeah, that's you. And she's in attendance for agenda item 1.8, which is importantly our student voice, and we welcome Bwrdd Llywelyn, student voice, who's here to talk about her experiences through her iaith Cymraeg. And then we've got Neil Hawkes, who's attending in terms of the endoscopy. He's endoscopy clinical lead, and he's going to be in attendance for agenda item 3.1, which is about the development of the endoscopy academy phase 2. We've got Julie Allen, who's a senior business support manager, in attendance as well around that specific issue of the endoscopy academy. We've got Nia Cole Jones, when they're getting head of Mwyna Gairau and the Welsh language unit, in attendance for agenda item 4.4. And in particular, I draw your attention to the approval of the Welsh language annual report 24-25. And then we've got Miranda here, who is here to gain experience with a view to becoming an independent member on a public service board at some point in the future. You are all very welcome. And I suppose I ought to welcome a new position around the table, which is Dr. Tom Lawson as our full-time executive medical director. I have had no apologies for absence, but I am going to ask if there are any declarations of interest that need to be declared that have not already been declared, but are pertinent to today's agenda. We've received none. Everybody comfortable with the agenda? Right, thank you very much. So I'll take you now, without further ado, to the draft minutes of the board meeting held on the 26th of June 25. Can I confirm you've all read the board minutes?
Yes.
Are there any issues of accuracy you now wish to raise?
No.
Can I take you to the action log of the board meeting held on the 26th of June? Have you all looked through the action log? Is there anything that needs to be raised from that action log? No? Only one?
Mm-hmm.
I believe we had a board meeting with only one action. There we are. And, oh yes, of course it was a special one, right? And then I'm asking you, please, to go back to the minutes of the board. Are there any issues you wish to raise as matters arising that are not covered by the action log and are not covered by today's agenda? No? Are you therefore happy for me to sign these minutes off as being active?
Yes.
Thank you very much. Now then, the first presentation we've got, I'll just put this in context a minute. Listening to the student voice is a very important piece of information that we as a board have the opportunity to reflect on. So I'm very pleased that we're bringing these two presentations here today. So Ian, you're going to, as our Director of Education and Strategy, you are going to introduce presentation on Healthcare Connect scheme.
Yeah, thank you. So we're going to hear from a student who participated in this new programme, which was developed 2 years ago. It was aimed at students who had, or applicants, who had not quite managed to secure a place when they had applied. And it provides support and collaboration between higher education and further education institutions. It provides some content delivered in the further education provider, and it also gives them access to support worker roles within the health board. And the intention of it is to increase the student confidence and with their understanding of what it means to work in the National Health Service, and it aims to make good any deficits they may have had at that point of application when we were unsuccessful. Although Claire is here for item 1.8, I've got to acknowledge that Claire is knee-deep in this initiative as well, and has done some fantastic work in relation to it. So the video that we're going to see is a participant in that scheme reflecting on her journey through it and what it's meant to her.
Hello everyone, my name is Jade and today I'm here to talk to you guys about the RCN Wales Healthcare Connect programme. So my journey began when I finished my A-levels, so I studied health and social care and biology for 2 years. So I then applied for midwifery through UCAS, the University of South Wales, but unfortunately I didn't get the grades that I wanted, so they declined my offer. Obviously it was heartbreaking and I was very stressed after. I wasn't really sure what else to do. So I contacted my tutor and then they introduced me to the RCN Wales Healthcare Connect programme. After the conversation with my tutor, I decided that I was going to give the programme a go and see if it would open my eyes to what to do next. So at the start of the course, we did a lot of different topics, we did a lot of different coursework, which was really enjoyable. And then Claire was in and out talking to us about different things, what our plans were, what we were going to do next, what we want to get out of this course. So I originally applied, as I said, for midwifery, but throughout the course it kind of opened my eyes to like a range of different things. So as part of the course we actually got to work on a ward as a healthcare assistant. So after a couple of weeks of going through all the application process, I started my healthcare role. It was quite daunting going into a ward, not having any care background, not knowing everything or anything at all. So the first couple of weeks was rough, but I stayed in contact with Claire, who called me weekly, messaged me, and just updated me on everything. So Claire was there the whole way through my placement, and I wouldn't be able to go through my placement without her. But after about a month, it got so much better. I started to be more confident in my role. I started to get the grasp of everything. I really, really enjoyed it. So as the course then came to an end, I decided to attend a range of open days in University of South Wales, where I actually found my love for learning disability nursing. So I attended an open day, met with the lecturers, absolutely fell in love with the role. Applied that same night directly from USW, and then I started my nursing journey. So I'm now coming to the end of my first year in University of South Wales as a learning disability nursing student, and I've loved every second of it, and I could have never done anything without the RCN Wales Healthcare Connect programme. And I want to say a massive thank you to everyone for listening to me today. I hope you've enjoyed my story. And I hope that this course becomes very, very big, because I think it will change a lot of people's lives like me.
Before all 5 of them went on to secure places in university programmes, 1 continued as a healthcare support worker because of personal circumstances. It's been scaled up. There were 22 in the next cohort, and there are a majority of further education colleges across Wales that are interested in participating in this programme, and so we're scaling it across the country.
What an uplifting story.
Right.
And what, what a privilege it is to have that window on someone at that stage in their career and the challenges that they face. Thanks, Ian. Now then, we've got another presentation, and trwy iaith Cymraeg, ie?
Ie.
Croeso.
Right, bore da pawb, a ti offon ni gyflwyno briall. Mis diwetha, cyflwynwyd ati gwobr i briall yn noson gwobrau myfyrwyr nyrsys yn Prifysgol Abertawe. Mae'n anrhydedd gas i oedd y gwobr y cydran ddyrwoldeb, amrywiaeth a chynhwysiant. A heddi, beth ni moyn at i clywed mwy na dim yw at i stori briall yn ystod y ti bod yn myfyrwyr yn Abertawe. Dawd y ti.
Diolch.
Yeah.
David?
Yeah. No,
Beth bynnag ti moyn neud. Ti moyn eistedd.
Pnawn da, fe enw i yw Briall Llywelyn. Rwy'n myfyrwraig nyrsio plant yn y flwyddyn olaf o'i radd a byddai'n cymwys y fanner sgwrwestredig haf yma. Rydw i yma heddi i rhannu fy nhaith nyrsio. Rwy'n dod o gymuned wledig yn Sir Benfro, lle mae siarad Cymraeg yn ail natur i mi. Mae bod yn siarad Cymraeg rhugl wedi bod yn rhan werthfawr fy mhrofiad ym maes gofrau iechyd. Cefais fy magu mewn teulu clos, lle mae'n Cymraeg rwy'n bywyd bob dydd, ac o oedran cynnar, cefais yn rhoi'n llwyr yn yr iaith a diwylliant Cymraeg. Gan dyfu fyny mewn cymuned hollol Gymraeg, roedd ein iaith wrth raidd y cyfan. Dechreuais fy blynyddoedd cynnar o addysg yn hollol Gymraeg, heb unrhyw dealltwriaeth o Saesneg. O ganlyniad, mi wnaeth hyn nid yn unig llunio'r ymgylchedd cryf Cymraeg o amgylch a fy hunaniaeth, ond oedd hefyd beithrin yn y gwerthfawrogiad dwfn o'r iaith a'i phwysigrwydd wrth gysylltiad eraill. Rhywbeth sy'n parhau i ddylanwadu am ennill o nyrsio a chyfathrebu mewn lleoliadau gofan. Cefais fy addysg yn ysgol y Preseli, ysgol gyfrwng Gymraeg, lle llwyddais i gwblhau fy addysg uwchradd a chweched dosbarth yn gyfan gwbl trwy gyfrwng y Gymraeg. Mae'r sylfaen blef hon yn yr iaith a ddiwylliant Cymraeg wedi chwarae rhan sylweddol wrth lunio fy sgiliau effeithiol o gyfathrebu. Ar ôl gwblhau'r chweched dosbarth, eis i ymlaen i ddilyn fy angen dros ofal trwy wneud cais i astudio nyrsio plant yn Prifysgol Abertawe, trwy'r nawr yn agosáu at gymwysedd yn nyrs gyfathrebu. Dechreuais fy astudiaeth nyrsio plant gydag ymrwymiad cryf i barhau fy addysg trwy gyfrwng y Gymraeg. Roedd dan y dealltwriaeth mai fi yw'r myfyriwr cyntaf yn y Brifysgol sy'n astudio nyrsio i gwblhau y holl asesiadau academaidd trwy gyfrwng y Gymraeg, hyd yn oed fy nogfen asesu ymarfer neu PADS document. Mae hyn wedi bod yn garreg filltir hynod o bwysig i mi ac yn adlewyrchiad o ymroddiad i'r iaith Gymraeg a gwerth darparu gofal yn iaith cyntaf pob claf. Rhywbeth rwy'n angerddol am ei rwyddo o fewn maes gofal iechyd. Mae fe'n angerdd i erioli dros cleifion yn agwedd personol iawn i mi, pan oeddwn yn fath torf y chwaer fod 4 mlwydd oed ar y pryd, ei braich ac yn amlwg roedd angen mynychu'r ysbyty. Fel esboniais yn gynharaf wrth dyfu yn lan mewn cartref Cymraeg, nid oedd eisoes wedi dysgu siarad Saesneg ac felly methu deall cwestiynau doctor. Dechreuodd mam i gyfieithu'r cwestiynau, ond ymatebodd y doctor yn eitha angwrtes a di-ystyriol gan fyny bod hi ddim yn siarad Cymraeg yn bellach, gan nad oedd yn gallu deall y cwestiynau roedd yn gofyn. Gwnaeth hefyd chyhuddo fy mam o gamdrin fy chwaer o achos hyn. Yn ffodus, camodd nyrs caredig a oedd yn gallu siarad Cymraeg i mewn i erioli dros y mam a fy chwaer, gan sicrhau nad oedd unrhyw beth amhriodol yn cael ei ddweud ac egluro mae mond cefnogi ei phlentyn oedd yn gwneud. Gadawodd y profiad hwnnw argraff barhaol arnaf. Fel unigolyn sy'n deall yn iawn pa mor frawychus mae ysbytau'n gallu bod i plant, yn enwedig pan nad yw'n bosib deall yr iaith sy'n cael ei siarad. Rwy'n teimlo'n gryf am bwysigrwydd gofal trawsturol sy'n sensitif i ddiwylliant. Rwy'n wedi ymrwymo i fod yn llais ac yn eiriolwr dros fy ngheifion i gyd, ac rwy'n credu gall cyfathrebu o fewn i iaith cyntaf leihau pryder yn sylweddol a meithrin ymddiriedau o fewn lleoliadau gofal. Nid yw cwblhau fy addysg drwy gyfrwng Gymraeg wedi dod heb unrhyw heriau. Rwy'n deall yn llwyr nad yw pob un yn medru siarad Cymraeg, ac ar y degau, mae hyn wedi creu rhwystrau drwy gydol fy nhaith. Bu achlysuron pan wrthodd unigolyn i lofnodi fy nogfen asesu oherwydd ei bod yn Gymraeg, i mi darparu fersiwn Saesneg ochr yn ochr. Mae profiadau fel hyn wedi rhoi straen arnau, ond hefyd wedi cryfhau fy mhenderfynoldeb. Rwy'n wedi dyfalparhau trwy'r anawsterau hyn a'i reoli gyda proffesiynoldeb ac ymynedd. Mae'r heriau hyn wedi siapo fy hun i fyfyrwyr mwy gwydyn ac ymddoddedig, ac wedi tanio fy ymrwymiad i godi ymwybyddiaeth a hyrwyddo gwerth yr iaith Gymraeg, gan ei bod yn heiddio'r un cydnabyddiaeth a pharch cyfartal. Mae ffrangmaeth mwy na geiriau gan Lywodraeth Cymru wedi bod yn hanfodol wrth godi ymwybyddiaeth a bwysigrwydd gwasanaethau Cymraeg o fewn y maes iechyd y gofal. Rwy'n wedi gyfeirio at y cyhoeddiad mewn nifer o fydreithodau academaidd i gefnogi'r achos dros ofal sy'n sensitif i ddiwylliant ac yn canolbwyntio ar y claf gan dynnu sylw at effaith wirioneddol mae derbyn gofal yn eich iaith cyntaf yn cael. Yn ystod un o fy lleoliadau ar fod feddygol plant,
Cefais y cyfle I ofalu yn plentyn ifanc a'i deulu yn ystod argyfwng meddygol. Roedd y plentyn a oedd yn amlwg mewn trallod ac eto yn dod o gartref Cymraeg yn ei gweld hi'n anodd I ddeall beth oedd yn ddigwydd o fewn y sefyllfa. Gan gynabod hyn, dechreuais gyfathrebu gyda'r plentyn a'i rieni yn y Gymraeg. Roedd yr effaith yn amlwg yn syth. Roedd y plentyn a'i rieni wedi twelu ac yn fwy ymgysylltiedig gyda'r sefyllfa. Trwy roi sicrwydd ac esboniadau clir yn ei haith cyntaf, llwyddais I leihau pryder y plentyn a'i rieni I deimlo ac gwneud siŵr eu bod yn teimlo fwy gwybodus ac wedi cynnwys yn y broses gofal. Roedd hyn nid yn unig gwella profiad cyffredinol y teulu, ond hefyd gwella diogelwch y plentyn yn sylweddol a creu yn y pendraw gwella canlyniadau clinigol eich llaw. Roedd yn bosib derbyn hanes mwy cywir, diall y cynllun gofal a gofyn unrhyw gwestiynau. Roedd yn adnodd pwerus mae nid dim ond dull cyfathrebu i'w iaith, ond elfen hanfodol o ofal tysturol, diogel ac yn fwy bwysig bod plentyn o braidd y cyfan. Mae gallu cwblhau fy nghwrs nyrsio yn y Gymraeg yn hynod o bwysig I mi, nid yn unig fel adlewyrchu'r fehynaniaeth, ond hefyd fel ymrwymiad I ddarparu gofal o ansawdd uchel I pob claf a'i teulu sy'n medru siarad Cymraeg. I mi, mae'r iaith Cymraeg yn fwy na modd o gyfathrebu, mae'n gysylltiad a diwylliant, cymuned a chysur, yn ymwedig fewn y cyfnodau o fegistrwydd. Trwy hyfforddi ac ymarfer yn y Gymraeg, roedd mewn gwell sefyllfa I gynnig gofal sy'n canolbwyntio ar y claf gan sicrhau nad yw iaith beth yn rhwystr I ddealltwriaeth, urddas nac ymddiriedau. Mae'n caniatáu I mi gefnogi cleifion a'i teuluoedd yn yr iaith sy'n teimlo'n fwyaf naturiol a thyweliau meddyliau. Yn ymwedig mewn sefyllfaoedd lle maent o dan straen neu'n teimlo'n emosiynol. Mae cwblhau fy nghwrs yn y Gymraeg yn atgyfnerthu fy'n cred y dylai dewis ieithyddol fod yn safon uchel nid eithriad mewn gofal iechyd, ac rwy'n falch o fod yn rhan o fuddiad sy'n tyfu ac yn gweithio I wyreddi hyn. I grynhoi, mae cwblhau fy nhaith nyrsio drwy gyfrwng y Gymraeg wedi bod yn gyflawniad personol a phroffesiynol sy'n adlewyrchu fy ymrwymiad I ddarparu gofal diogel, tysturol ac yn hollbwysig sy'n canolbwyntio ar y claf. Byddem yn parhau I erioli dros yr hawl I fewnheigion derbyn gofal yn y iaith dewisol, a ddefnyddio fy iaith I gefnogi plant a'i teuluoedd yn ystod rhai o'r cyfnodau anoddaf. Wrth I mi gymryd y cam nesaf mewn I rôl newydd yn adran dymweiniau ac achosion bris plant o fewn Bwrdd Iechyd yn Eiryn Beban, rwy'n falch o barhau fy nhaith Cymraeg ac yn parhau I fod yn ymroddedig I wneud gwahaniaeth ystyrlon drwy ofal sy'n sensitif I ddiwylliant ac sy'n gynhwysol. Diolch yn iawn at eich amser.
Mae'r iaith mwy na iaith, mae'r iaith Gymraeg mwy na iaith. Mae'n ysbryd y genedl. Ac mae'n bwysig I pobl sy'n mewn gofal a iechyd. Mae'n rhaid I nhw cymryd y gyfle I siarad a bydd pobl yn deall nhw. Mae'n hynny'n mor bwysig. Diolch am heddiw. All right.
Diolch yn glyfrau, ffantastig.
Very best wishes for your career.
On that point, we can grab his excuse because we are still day of shopping in Cardiff.
Very best of luck in your career.
Diolch Brian.
I thought the video was impactful. I thought that was exceptionally impactful. Have we got her speaking on video?
Yes.
And are we putting these two people front and center on our
And also to raise the informed so many other people about the TVS as well. I think we spoke about government as well. Yeah, we did. They're aware.
My observation is that we should be making sure that the universities and the higher and the further education schools and the schools realise the power of allowing people to train and express themselves in their professional careers through their whole language. I think it's really important. Okay, thank you.
Sorry, I'm allowed one quick question. It was on the first one. What struck me, think about conversations we've had, as that young lady wants to do midwifery, having had no experience in midwifery, doing the RCN, doing that programme with LD nursing, and it just made me question. I wonder how they're assessing people to go onto the midwifery programme and whether that is to have a look at. I know we don't do that at university. I don't want to answer now, but it just struck me. She wanted to do midwifery. Actually, she's now doing LD and having the experience. That programme, interesting.
I think the lady has a really good heart.
And
I don't know. I don't need that answer now. It just struck me.
Just to add to that as well, we've got a number of programmes actually who in their first year you actually introduce them to learning disability nursing, and they might have actually identified they need to do adult, and in the second year they transferred to learning disability. So it's about the understanding and the culture.
It wasn't really that switch. It was just a switch in itself. Thinking she wanted to do midwifery. Actually, no, that's not what she wants. Interesting. Sorry. Thank you.
No. So I'm going to go on to the chair's report, which I know is the highlight of your reading, right? And I'm not going to echo anything that's in the report. The report's the report, but first of all, some very sad news in that our colleague Ruth Walker, a very senior nurse in our NHS, passed away. I know colleagues around the table would want to send their condolences to the family, and there will be many colleagues who are upset by this across the NHS in Wales. The second thing was I've had two really uplifting experiences in the last week. One was connected to what we've just witnessed. Listening to younger people, not ancient people like myself, but listening to them, speaking to members of our staff in the Royal Welsh Show. And the uplifting thing through the medium of English, through Welsh, it was very open, and it was very random. Literally about 1,600 people walked past and stopped, and it's amazing what a free toothbrush will do for families, right? But can I just say, listening to their voices about at this particular time of the year when they're about to get their GCSE and their A-level results, and I have noticed a change in the wording. What are you going to do next is the common question from us always. And I'm hearing more, I'm keeping my options open. And when you see that, listen to that first story, how if you set your expectations very early on, you can have a real knockback and think you fail. And we need to be really thinking through what success is. And success to me looks like getting people on a path which will make them successful. And that's the bit that we play through our commissioning of these of our training programs. But making people good is not a bad thing. And I think it's more subtle than what A levels you've got and you fit in that box. And the point we have those conversations, I suspect, will be at multiple points along the age groups. But this generation coming through now, taking their O levels and A levels at this point, are definitely different to my generation. And then the second thing that was uplifting this week was after we finished interviewing for the medical director, which was again, but we actually popped into a room full of people who've been on our leadership fellowship program. What an extraordinary thing. I'd had the pleasure of seeing them right at the beginning when it was they were still sort of in their professional silos. I couldn't work out this time I saw them, what backgrounds they come from. The interactions in the room between professionals was really very fluid. The quality of the presentations and the reflections of the support they'd had during the programme, I think I would say we should be rightly proud of a lot of the activity that our staff do in our name as HEIW. It's sometimes very soft, but it is absolutely makes a difference. And that First Lady's story, and then you listen to Bwrdd there, and it is about opening the way, giving people space to develop, and she has clearly developed professionally, but she's built upon her nature, and she's used the language as a very powerful tool to become a much more measured and impactful clinician than perhaps she would have. So well done. So just from my report, I want you to note the report for information. Note that John will stand down as Vice Chair of HEIW, and that Donna MacArthur, as Chair of Education Commissioning and Quality Committee, will also step down from that role. John has been a remarkable Vice Chair, and I'm really grateful for the way he has supported the organisation and me personally over this past period. Do you want to say anything, John?
Can I make just 2 points, Chair?
Yeah.
Firstly, I equally had the privilege of visiting our stand at the Royal Welsh on 2 occasions, and staff were there in force. And whilst I recognise the perspective that you take in terms of the people that were going to the stand, our staff were there all week, attending a busy stand, and I think we as a board should acknowledge the contribution that they make to that show and to the support of our business as a board, as an organisation. So diolch yn fawr, thank you. And secondly, reluctantly I'm having to stand down, but I do want to acknowledge the support from board members, from fellow vice chairs, and from yourself, Chair, and would wish Donna all the very best in her role. Thank you.
Hey, John. So I'm asking you please to approve the appointment of Donna MacArthur as Vice Chair of HEIW from the 1st of August. Approved?
Yes.
I'm asking you to approve the appointment of Judith as Chair of Education Commissioning and Quality Committee on the 1st of August, from the 1st of August.
Yes.
Yeah. That's a relief, guys. And I'm asking you to ratify, this will be even more relief, I'm asking you to ratify a Chair's action taken on the 5th of June to approve the cost of £467,522 plus VAT relating to HEIW's use of Microsoft licenses for various Microsoft products as detailed in section 6 of this report. And if there are any issues, I'm sure Glyn will be very happy to cover those issues. This organisation is very busy at this moment in time. It is great privilege to chair this organisation, but it is also really energising to see that the impact of the work we're doing and the way that we are supporting the NHS. So I too would like to add my thanks to the staff, to the executive team and to the chief executive. That's it from me. Alex.
Thank you, Chair. So the first one is to just, I suppose, make sure we're doing the process right about our new medical director appointment, because you've enthusiastically welcomed Tom in his new role. He's not technically in his new role yet. So you obviously need to just do a bit of checks and balances, checking from RATS this morning. So David, what's the process for the decision that the RATS made this morning to be noted in this meeting?
So decisions was taken in the closed session. So just for noting, we confirm that that decision has been taken. But I understand that Tom will commence the new role in the next couple of months.
Yeah, just agree on start date now. So just wanted to make sure that in your enthusiasm, you hadn't missed that step.
Process is the brain.
Indeed. But over and above the process, obviously, we're very pleased that Tom has accepted the role, and we look forward to agreeing a start date shortly. So thank you very much. Well done, Tom. In terms of my report, just a couple of things to highlight. So from a context perspective, and there's a lot in the chairman's report about this as well, but I suppose I'm really conscious that I'm working alongside chief executives who are in charge of organisations that are really at the sharp end at the moment in terms of a huge focus on delivery, a huge focus on transformation, and doing all of that within a really, really difficult financial context. So, you know, that's really the situation that the NHS is working within. For HEIW, we've got to be really conscious and collaborative in that endeavour. You won't notice from the report, but what's happened since is that we have had confirmation that our IMTP, our integrated medium-term plan, has been assessed by Welsh Government as satisfactory, which is really good news, and that obviously provides us with a really firm foundation for our activities this year. What we will be doing is obviously just double checking, and we're pretty confident that it already does relate to the new set of Cabinet Secretary priorities in improving performance together. But maybe the nuance and the emphasis just might need to be sharpened in light of that Cabinet Secretary publication that I've mentioned in my report. So we are going through that process at the moment, and we'll obviously let the board know if there are any areas that we think we need to adjust and flex as we go along. The other big important plan for us, as you know, is HEIW is our education and training plan, which I referred to in that report. And, you know, again, linking back to the context of the moment, it's really important that in producing that plan this year, we are responding to the changing demands and needs of NHS organisations in Wales, and we are cognizant of, you know, the workforce position in those organisations, the vacancy position in those organisations, the pace and scale of the transformation that I've already mentioned, and how that might manifest itself over the next couple of years. So making our recommendation in the education and training plan this year, we do need to take all of that into account. And as you'll see from the report, we are therefore pushing the deadline for that plan back by a month to make sure that we've had those conversations in depth and come out with the right way of training our future workforce, but also making the best use of scarce investment as well. And then finally, just on the risk issue, we've mentioned there a current risk which we're assessing with our ambulance colleagues around our medic recruitment, and we are hopeful that our current conversations with WAST are going to lead to a positive outcome there. But I think this is very much the nature of the current world we're living in, where we need to make sure that we are absolutely focused on ensuring that there is a smooth pipeline for our future workforce, and a real focus on the education to employment pipeline. Obviously now we have the data to do that, which we didn't have perhaps a couple of years ago, so that is also helping us with our insights in the education and training plan. Another example of that in the media today is in relation to some of our medical workforce alignment. So I don't know, Tom, whether you just wanted to give a brief update on our position on that to the board.
Yes, thank you very much. I mean, there are increased competition ratios for postgraduate medical training posts across the whole of the UK, and one of the positive results of that is our fill rates are much improved. There are multiple factors that contribute to that and that are behind the article that was published this morning. There's ongoing work that is looking at this. Obviously, our purpose is to make sure those who want to train in Wales are supported to do so that we have a sustainable pipeline going forward. So we're very closely working with Welsh Government, the other statutory workforce education bodies across all nations, and and the Department of Health, looking at all the factors that contribute to this, some of which we can influence, others need fundamental legal change, but those processes are underway so that we can mitigate it. We haven't filled all our training posts again this year, but our fill rates are good, but our commitment with resident doctors, particularly those who are concerned about access to jobs, will continue. We'll keep you updated.
Thanks. I'm happy to take any questions on anything else that's in the report.
Questions, comments? Okay, thank you very much. I'm going on to agenda item 3.2, which is the digital and data strategy update. Thanks, Dan.
Thank you. I present to the board the year 2 position. So those of you that were here will have read previously the year 1 position. So as part of the digital and data strategy that the board approved going into 2024, the annual review provides an update of the progress we're making against the 5 key areas of delivering innovative digital solutions, building digital capability of the workforce, enabling high quality digital learning, enhancing workforce data and intelligence, and then strengthening our cyber security and information governance. I know you will have read the details, so I'm not going to go through every single one, but it is an informative position of each mission of the progress that we've made. And overall, we are making good and in some areas substantial progress across the different areas. And I think what that is demonstrating is an impact of a digitally maturing organisation. And the strategy was very much one of a phase across 5 years, with year 1 being about the foundations, year 2, 3 and 4 growing and building on that, and then year 5 maximising that opportunity. So we're definitely in that growth period, and I hope that the paper gives you assurance that we are where we said we would be against the strategy, and we're achieving considerable progress. There are, within any complex system, some challenges that we've faced through that time, but we are placing mitigation in place and using our good governance of risk registers, escalation, and the support of the executive team and prioritisation processes to manage any of those concerns or capability issues. And therefore, we are overall making good progress. We're working collaboratively with our partners to offer products and services such as our data and digital services on workforce data to help change the way that we are workforce planning and provide more insight, or change the way that we are delivering education through our HEIW learning platform and actually offering innovative person-centred learning opportunities that weren't there previously, and offering solutions around digital skills through our digital capability framework. So a flavour there of the support that we are providing. So asking the board to note the progress of the strategy in year 2 as we progress into year 3.
Questions, comments?
Thanks, Sean. Really good report as always. Great to see the progress that's been made, and we see that feeding into some of the committees, etc. It's exceedingly useful. I do note the growing demand that you said is placed on the team, and obviously that we have a planning prioritisation group that provides that governance mechanism to manage those competing priorities and in-year requests. But I suppose I'm just wondering, as that is growing, how much are we having to decline, and is that at all impacting on any business things that we really want to be doing just because there isn't the resource or the capabilities or the capacity to do that? So are we keeping an eye on that, in terms of going forward?
Yeah, so at the moment there's no significant decline. Maybe we've rescheduled some of the delivery timescales, but it's not the decision then of the group if they feel that we can't. That's for an executive decision to actually take a consolidated view of the impact on the wider business. So that's done in collaboration with executive colleagues, but we haven't got to that position. Yeah,
just needs a watchful eye, doesn't it?
Yeah,
terms of,
yeah.
And the more you can do, the more people want.
Yes, a really good report, Sean. Thank you. When you talk about strategic partnerships and partners, I wonder if you say, is there a sort of equal interest in these products, or are you finding some areas are more challenging to come on board with new ways of accessing data, or sort of the you mentioned about the virtual reality content?
I think we've got interest in doing adopters. So the example that you've used where the virtual reality, people are starting to work in that area in their own right and then want to collaborate with us because we've got a national platform available. So we're exploring those joint opportunities. But I think those that start small and become the smaller percentage, actually the learning and the impact of that grows, that other people become interested, and that's the experience we've seen where that then later gets rolled out to other participants across Wales. But I think what is important is where we do something like that example, we host it on a national digital learning platform, which means anything we do would then have the potential of being available to the wider NHS community.
Good comments?
Also echo the fact that this is a great report, real progress being made across multiple fronts. Particularly impressed with the telephony solution, and in this sort of organisation, having your phone number follow you around wherever you are, subject of course to signal, is really, really helpful. CODI, I mean, clearly is the big flagship project at the front end of this. We've got a rescheduled timetable. Are we still confident that we can meet that one?
Based on the information that we're receiving on a daily and then an end of weekly review meeting, we are on the recovery plan where we said we would be. It's a complicated programme, as you know, and we're managing the mitigations, but to date those issues or risks that have emerged through the complexity of what we're going through have been managed, and we're managing to maintain our position on recovery. But we're now reporting weekly into the executive team, so should something happen, then that would be dealt with and raised immediately out of those weekly review meetings.
So Shannon, the thing I liked about the report was the reflective bit about it and the learning. So I've got the opposite question. So everybody sees the timeline delay for CODI as a risk, which it is. But what's the benefit? And it may not be the digital prowess benefit, but the utilisation, and scope. So when I was reading the report, the bit I thought we should nail, absolutely nail going forward, is because we've done this, we've been able to do that. Because we've done this, they've been able to do that. And the challenge then becomes, if more did this, the impact would be. Right, which changes the nature of the report from being, it's a really, I mean, you can't have that conversation without this being a very, very good, solid report, right? But I'm just saying to you, I think there's merit in exploring. I'm very keen that people understand, have a growing understanding of our title, which is Health, Education and Improvement. And system improvement in our world looks very complex now. It's not just about creating more. It's not about creating, filling university places. It's about actually creating well-trained, solidly educated individuals to provide great services and enable change. And to me, the penny's definitely dropped in the 10-year plan, going from in England from analog to digital. This report gave me a lot more confidence that actually we are well on the journey in the health, education and improvement world. And I really think the linkages within our directorates. For instance, the one that's I'm really excited about is our education strategy. The ability to use our digital and data platforms to link service provision with education and training throughout the life course. Yeah, for me is a big penny that would be almost inconceivable without us having done this. So a question for you right there, top of the head, is the strategy still as pushy as it should be? When does the strategy need to be revisited? And is the strategy going to be as good as we can be as an organisation, not as a strategy?
So I think the strategy was purposely chosen over a time of 5 years because we knew that any longer and we wouldn't be in the pushy element of it. The strategy is very much about putting strong foundations that are business, sort of our widest purpose and business focus, so that we're enabling that. I think the example that you gave, for instance, on education and strategy, you can see themes through the strategy where the data, our approach to AI and our approach to the learning management system of HEIW, they're key enablers to what that education strategy will then take forward and capitalise on those things. So those is an example where it comes together. So the pushiness may come out of the education strategy, but without the digital and data strategy, we wouldn't have had a platform to be pushy in that space. So I think we will, this year is very much a year about understanding impact, to answer your question about what difference are we making and what more could we do. I think we've already identified a number of areas this year that we can do more, and we're taking those forward. And then we will start to consider, unbelievably, a rewrite of what this looks like and how we then enable the organisation to the next level. So I think there's something about that enablement internally, about the ways of being a digital first organisation, and that links to the work on our operating model. And then is how do we collaborate and support the system with the data and the use of technology such as AI in education, and then how do we enable sort of the education strategy around taking that forward. So there's definitely links to that transition into the next stage that I think you'll describe it.
Okay. Any other questions? So it seems very done, Beakers. The board is asked to note the progress made in year 2 of delivering the digital and data strategy. I think we should recognise, right? It's not just about note. We should recognise that a very senior member, leader in the NHS, who's just done a review of the productivity in Wales, said, if you're doing a digital piece of work, it's bound to go wrong. And the strength of it is you learn by when it goes wrong. And I think that's a really big learning point for everybody, that actually we should expect things to deviate and then react and mitigate, but learn so that we don't have the same things happening again. So congratulations to you and the team, and clearly the work to infest this cross partners, but very much I'd like to make sure that we take every opportunity within the organisation to maximise the great potential that's sat in this. Thank you. Okay. So we're going to take agenda item 3.1 now. Well, that's really timely. Well, thank you very much. It's just like magic, isn't it? So we're going to go to agenda item 3.1, and this is Endoscopy Academy Phase 2. I'll just reiterate, this lot of board members really do read the paper. Right? Really do. So Over to you.
So I'll start with the introduction. So I'd like to welcome Julie and Neil, who were mentioned in the chair's introduction to the meeting. So this is the proposal for phase 2 of the Endoscopy Academy. The Endoscopy Academy launched in HEIW at the start of 2024. And it put on a lot of courses which were related to the development of the multidisciplinary team and all of their training requirements in order to provide high quality endoscopy services. In that first phase, we delivered a lot of courses to a lot of staff across a multi-professional team. And we are now proposing that we move on to phase 2 of the Endoscopy Academy. The critical thing about this proposal is that it's about moving to a different kind of training which delivers something different, and that's accelerated training. So the key element of this is that this is not about providing more of the same training. We're going to provide a lot of the training we already have, but we're going to move to an accelerated model. And that really means that we're going to be able to support trainees through their training. We're going to be able to provide periods of acceleration, which are going to get them through that training faster due to a more immersive experience. And the critical thing is that that's going to make them available for service earlier than they otherwise would be by about 45%. And so this is about development of an approach to acceleration, which is focused on different locations within Wales, which ensure that we have service development across the country that's responsive to need. And Julie's going to provide some information on the process, and then Neil is going to provide some more information on exactly what that training will bring. So Julie.
Thanks, Ian. As Chris has said, everyone's read the process. I won't go into full detail, but I'll just draw out some of the key elements and some considerations for quality development of this. So as you can see, phase 2, our proposed recommendation is looking for pro rata funding for a period of 5 years. And that's to enable that phased implementation of the 3 regional training centres and accelerated model, which Ian was referencing. And the reason we're looking for that 5-year period is because we really want to boost endoscopy capacity and take that time to address the backlog of training needs across the system. And that will enable us then to also evaluate and understand how well it's working in terms of regional delivery model, engage with partners across the system, and build the evidence base then to assess need. Once we reach that steady state of delivery, and then we can transition into a business as usual operating model from 2030. So it gives us that time to really understand and develop and bring in that regionalised training approach. In the document itself, you can see sections 1 to 4. We've looked at quite comprehensively and relatively succinctly set out the case for change and the drivers. We've drawn across the strategic service workforce and education and training perspective. You can see the various plans across the system that's in the document, so I won't go into length about those. But what we've done really in section 5 is we've looked at how we can do this proposal for a strategic implementation lens. We've looked at that in terms of what do we need to establish high quality regionalised training infrastructure, what are the timelines for that, what are the governance arrangements we need. We've looked at it from that implementation piece, and we've drawn really heavily on the examples of implementation of academies and accelerated training outside of Wales. So we're looking at best practice, but we're also drawing on our own experience and learning from a pilot that was undertaken in January to March this year in Cardiff and Vale Health Board. So we really grounded this in practical experience as well. So in terms of anticipated benefits and impacts, you can see them in the document again. I just wanted to say there's some really key benefits here in terms of improved patient outcomes, increased service capacity, reduced reliance on insourcing, which is really vital in having an associated significant financial impact in the medium to long term, and that real development of an endoscopy workforce. So what we really recognise here is an interconnectedness here between what we're proposing for the Academy, what we'd like to achieve within HEIW around this model, but also what's happening nationally across priorities and actions over the next 5 years to address the vigility and services around endoscopy. And that's why I'd like to bring Neil in to talk really about the value and importance of this proposal from the service and workforce perspective.
Thank you, and thank you to everybody who's been a part of helping to develop this paper. There's a lot of wisdom, I think, that started to be introduced into it. I have another role as the National Clinical Lead for Diagnostics, so I also see the picture from the service requirement. So diagnostic endoscopy is a really important diagnostic tool. It's embedded in cancer pathways. It helps to move patients' care on and to save their lives.
waiting times for endoscopy have been going up and up. The demand for endoscopy year on year is rising by about 5%. And yet the latest workforce data from the British Society of Gastroenterology says that 20% of consultants are likely to retire in the next 5 years. 25% of our endoscopy nurses are likely to retire in the next 5 years. 30% of our clinical endoscopists will retire in the next 5 years. And 4 specialist areas such as bowel screening colonoscopists and for ERCP, which is a technique which looks at bile ducts and helps treat bile duct cancers, 35% of our workforce will not be with us in 5 years' time. This is pretty sobering given the increase in the numbers of demand. So health boards have been under real pressure, and one of the problems has been that they've reached for insourcing as a solution. That's effective in bringing down short-term waiting times, but what it does not do is it does not help to develop your workforce. In fact, it steals the cases that trainees would traditionally have had to train on. So what we've done is we've run an accelerated training pilot in Wales, and we've shown and we presented it to the Planned Care Board last week. The data that shows that accelerated training not only delivers a significant service output, so if you ran 2 theatres as we're proposing full time, you'd be delivering over 12,000 points of endoscopy. That's a significant service contribution. But more importantly, it helps the trainees to come through pathways much, much quicker. If we do nothing, the training pathways are going to seize up because we're not offering as many training lists as we should. Nationally, the figure from the National Endoscopy Database was 7%. In England, they reacted to that by setting a target for all their health boards to get up to 10%. We don't have a target like that in Wales. But more than that, we need to accelerate people even faster. And what we've shown in the modelling, which is included in the paper, is that if you do that, it's of benefit to local health boards because they get independently signed off endoscopists through their system who can contribute to backfill lists, who can contribute independent service lists. That's before they get their CCST. So registrar level trainees become very useful members of the health boards. The other beauty of this proposal is that it's not just focused on medical staff, it's multidisciplinary. It's going to support the acceleration of nurse training as well, which is really important if 25% of our nurses are going to be retiring. So I think it is, I hope it's a rounded proposal that meets a real need. And we have a team who is determined to take this forward and drive the change that would be needed across the different regional centres and to make this happen.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? No.
Chair, thank you very much for the paper. It is demonstrating how we're responding to need, and that is welcomed. And I welcome the nature of the proposal and how it's going to be managed very much in the partnership model. I'm looking for assurance, however, around a number of areas, if I can ask. One is around the governance structure. To me, it just seems there's risk in that because I see what is being proposed around the role of HEIW in that governance, but equally the clinical components will be the responsibility and accountability within the health boards, and particularly when that relates to clinical competencies that have to be met. How are we getting the assurance and the governance around that? So just some assurance around how each element of the governance model that you outline, whilst there are 3 streams noted, how are we bringing that together to ensure collective governance? And the second point, Chair, if I may, there appears to be a very credible description of the dependencies and the constraints. And a worry bead for me in all this is around estates and equipment, resources, and that then will dictate the accreditation of the centres in terms of, I think it's called JET or JAG. And I'm not sure, I'm looking again for some reassurance as to how we are not only describing what those dependencies and what those constraints are, but how we're going to be dealing with them. Thank you.
In terms of the clinical governance, there's very tight clinical governance around any endoscopy that's performed anywhere. So in terms of training lists, you will always have a qualified consultant standing right next to the trainee. So if anything, your central faculty, who are the people who will be present at the lists, are going to be hand selected and probably will be among the best endoscopists in Wales supervising the lists. So in terms of clinical safety, I think you can be pretty assured that the quality of the endoscopies that will be performed will be high. And where we've looked at evidence as to whether training lists decrease the experience for the patient, they don't. In fact, if anything, the evidence is slightly that it supports better patient care. So I think in terms of clinical governance, I would be fairly confident that the quality of the endoscopy will be high. In terms of the working with health boards, I think, in terms of where we do the lists, there is considerable flexibility still about how we operate the accelerated training list. So the example I gave you of the pilot was actually done in Llandok Hospital, working fully in association with their clinical and managerial team there. And we managed to do quite a lot of endoscopy and safely. The bid mentions that Llantryston Health Park, but that's only one partnership, because you'd equally have to arrange a similar partnership in North Wales and in West Wales. And you're right to say that those I's need dotting and those T's need crossing. We haven't completely described what the working relationship will be with those health boards, but we know on the basis both of trials that have been done in Wales and the model that's operational in Scotland, and working with the other areas of England that are doing accelerated training, that this is a bridge that is very readily crossable. So we're working already with the team in North Wales to re-establish their training centre. We're seeking to do exactly the same with the team in the southwest. But actually, not having this business case passed, it is inhibitory in opening up those conversations, because if you haven't got the backing or the promise of funding to support the central faculty, people become less willing to talk to you over the table. So I think this would be an enabler for those conversations.
Hear that, John?
Yeah, so I hear what you're saying, particularly in terms of the clinical element of governance and the actual patient experience. I think my focus is a level above that in terms of, as you rightly described, around the bridge. As a board, we need assurance that investment is resulting in outcomes and impact. And how do we make sure, as you say, we can do it, but we need to document that in terms of what are the arrangements between those elements of government, particularly when elements of it rest within other providers, not as an organisation. And just spelling that out. You verbalised it. I think we need assurance of it.
Any other questions?
Yeah, thank you. And the paper's very explanatory, and it's good to read, and I support the direction of travel. I had similar issues around the governance because I wasn't exactly clear who the SLAs will be developed with. It says regional training centre health boards. That means one health board in North Wales, but there's a number in the other areas. So the governance route is so important, just who is accountable for them. So I echo that. I'm not clear where the capital funding is coming from. I wasn't clear about that. But the other thing that I just was particularly not concerned but exercised by was under 6.7, the key risks. As I read this, it has to be the engagement of the health boards, not only for the delivery of the model, but actually to utilise the staff when they're trained. And we've seen in other areas where we embark on a well-supported programme to develop certain skills of staff, and then those skills aren't used within health boards, so they don't have plans to accommodate that different way of working. We've seen it in ophthalmology, we've seen it in psychiatry, and I just wonder where that assurance is going to come from, that by moving to this model and supporting this case, the health boards are going to play their part by releasing the staff needed, because that's clearly part of it, and then actually developing the service so those people are trained can then use those skills.
I think they're really good points. I think the evidence from the pilot was that all of the health boards released their trainees to take part in, so they engaged with that well. We had a good response from the faculty members for the pilot too, who would granted that was just in the southeast, but in terms of then at the other end, when the trainees have come through and off the conveyor belt, so to speak, I think we've learned from the radiology programme that there's work that you can do to let health boards know with time in advance that this trainee will be ready, and we can then announce that to the people who would need to provide the circumstance that they could practice. We also get this with a programme that's for the clinical endoscopist training. So we've been running that with HEIW for the past 5 years. And we've got increasingly good at knowing who the contacts are in the health board and making, because it's even more complicated for them, because you have to sort out another whole half of their job plan. So we have made these connections with the different health boards, and we've had clinical endoscopists now from all of the different health boards participate in that programme. So we're not coming from an absolute standing start. We have these relationships and contacts already.
So Maya, will each of the health boards be taking this programme and supporting it through their boards? Is that the intention? Because having been on the board, unless something comes through and it can be costed and included in their IMTPs, then it hasn't got the right profile. So I just wonder if that's been factored in.
So I think you were right early on to say that the different health board, the different regions are going to have different arrangements. So North Wales are aware of what we want to do. Carol Shillabeer was in the Plan Care Board and was quite interested in this proposal when we talked about accelerated training last week. And she instantly emailed the team who we're talking to about regional training. So in North Wales, it's already on the agenda. In the southeast, it's already on the agenda because we've all been working with the regional endoscopy planning team who are looking at Llantryston Health Park. I think the area where there's less dialogue that's gone on is between Swansea and Halbar and West Wales. However, we do have again contacts through the diagnostics programme, and there's good examples. For example, the ArCH programme where they were working on their joined up pathology.
I should say I was the vice chair at Halbar for 8 years. So I do know the background. It's just when you said that, I thought I know what you're going to say.
I'm just going to bring Alex in on that.
Yeah, so I suppose the way I see this working is this is one of the Ministerial Advisory Group recommendations, very specific in there around the expectations around endoscopy. And so what we need to do is not let this get fragmented across all the NHS organisations. This is part of the National Planned Care Diagnostics Programme, and they need to hold their own on this. And that's the decision making and commitment forum, if you like, that we need to be using. We're not asking the health boards to joint fund this. What we need to be doing is asking that programme to support this with funding. And then we need to be working with the health boards in order to implement these things. So we have 300,000 pounds that we currently spend on endoscopy. That's obviously part of the deal. But actually, in order to get to this next phase, we will need additional funding. So Neil with his other hat on is hopefully going to write us a cheque today. I know it's not as simple as that, but that is the we will need to almost jointly submit this, I think, to that programme to say this is what we want to do. I think the capital is not huge amounts anyway, so I can't see that that's going to be the stumbling block in this issue. It's more the revenue costs, which for us are quite big in the overall scheme of what's going on in planned care and diagnostics at the moment. It's not actually that big. So I think that's got to be the mechanism. There may be a conversation with Welsh Government which said, actually, well, can you put it through your education and training plan? So we need to have that if this business case is acceptable, we need to have that conversation with Welsh Government about what's the best way to progress this. I think the issue around the relationships that we need with stakeholders to make this work is a really good one. We are breaking new ground with it, so we need to recognise that we haven't got quite this. We've got a primary care academy network, which is similar, where we have had MOUs with health boards around how they use the resource, and we've invested with them, what the expectations are, and how we work together. So we very much built some of the principles of this on that primary care academy, and we also have, as Neil said, learning from Scotland, who are already doing this, not just in endoscopy, they're doing it in perioperative care, they're doing it in imaging, they're doing it in many different programmes. And one of the governance mechanisms they use there is they have a clinical reference group which draws in a very senior clinical executive from all of the organisations into a decision-making group, and they decide on priorities and they sign off programmes. So I think we need to be looking at how we draw that clinical senior leadership in. We also then need to look at those MOUs. We know that, for example, with the NHS Scotland Academy, which sits on the Golden Jubilee site, they have an MOU between those two organisations and NES to make sure that all of that is sorted out. Our arrangement might be more dispersed. We might need broader MOU across all the organisations, but that's certainly something we will be working through in the next phase.
I mean, don't get me wrong, I think it's absolutely the right way to go. I suppose it's a bit different for some organisations, and there needs to be a bit of a push.
Any more questions or comments? Oh, sorry, Alan.
Sorry,
I've got your hand up.
Yeah, very supportive of the case as such. I'm just thinking through the next stage of it being submitted and hopefully getting approved. There's a couple of points. One is minor, one's probably more significant. The minor one was about, there's a reference to business as usual operating model. It's not described. It might be useful to describe that, because I don't understand what it means, and whoever's going to review the business case will probably have a similar view. The second one is about the insourcing, the potential savings that can be done on insourcing. So I think probably a bit more metrics in terms of what the volume would be, what the savings on the insourcing, what the additional costs for LHVs would be, so that it's it's more powerful as a business case, because I think that would probably help it get over the line.
You're right. So when I read it, I remember the presentation you gave to our staff conference last year, and it was impactful there. I think you've the business case is well set out. It's entirely intelligent and cohesive. We've got to remember that people's brains don't see the whole picture. You've got to give them a chance. So I think if this is approved, this is what you can expect. And the first bit is X number of lives will be saved, X number of lives will be improved, sustainable public service funded, public service delivered. Yeah. So I think, double think what the civil servants are going to be doing with this, which is feeding it up to a cabinet secretary, entirely in line with the government's priorities, improves the effectiveness and outcomes of NHS. Yeah. Values, puts the patient outcome at the heart, all of that, right? And I think the bottom line for us is based on strong educational and training evidence. The bit that's missing is the research opportunity. So I can remember going and working for 6 weeks with Charnley on hip replacements, 1978. And it was very special. And he didn't think it would last more than, each hip wouldn't last more than 4 years. At the same time, cimetidine was just emerging, and suddenly gastrectomy disappeared off operating lists. So I think actually making this bid in the context of technology, which is at a stage, and the ability look like. So if this is the analog version of endoscopy, what's the digitalized version of endoscopy? Yeah. So I would put the keys in to go back to see this as a step, and you luckily called it phase 2. Yeah, very canny phase 1, phase 2. Don't leave them think that this would be the end of the phasing. But to put it together the way you have and make it, relatively easy to understand and be persuasive, I think you should be congratulated. All right. So lead them by the nose and make sure whoever reads, the first thing they read is, this is what you get. Heinz 57. This is what you get. Okay. Really nail it. And the points made about governance, right? Ignore governance at our peril, because that will be the stumbling block where people will fall out when life gets really tough.
Yeah.
And when chief execs will put their names to it, are no longer in position. So this needs to go at board through the route you've described at national and then at board level. Whatever regional structures emerge, and there are regionalization structures already emerging, they need to be absolutely tighted into it. Clinical governance is the easy bit. Okay.
Yes.
So
Thank you.
I am asking that I think we have reviewed and discussed this. Yeah. And I'm asking you to approve the proposal for the consideration by Welsh Government. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you've also heard comments from today, from the brief debate, which are which could contribute that it could contribute to the future success. And I think aligning what is the nature of the environment for success in your own minds as this goes in, and in our minds as HEIW, I think that's important. Okay, well done. Thank you. You must say to the team, reasonable job. Well done. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Right, would you like a 5-minute comfort break? Can someone work out how to open the windows? Right, so nôl i'r bwrdd heddiw. We're going into agenda item 4.1, the integrated performance report, presented by Glyn.
Thank you very much. Thank you. You have in front of you the first performance report of this year, which reports against the objectives in the IMTP that we submitted to Welsh Government. So you'll see it's a slightly different format to the performance reports that we produced previously. Obviously, the focus is to look at how we're delivering against the different objectives within the IMTP. Firstly, around those strategic priorities, which are, if you like, the transformational work that we're doing within HEIW, and then looking at how we're delivering against a lot of what we would describe as being business as usual or core business. So typically things like delivery of the education training plan. There's also contained within the report an update on some of our enabling objectives as well. So again, you can see where we're delivering on some of those, as well as some of the internal performance organisation. So that's the structure of the report. And I guess the important thing to say is, as part of the overall performance framework that the board signed off back in May, we are using the performance information within the organisation to actually look more critically at how we're delivering against these objectives. That, I think, it's an evolving process in terms of the quality of the information, but I think it's also enabling us to start looking at not only how we're delivering on each of the objectives, but also to consider then how we measure the impact or the benefit of delivering on some of those objectives. Alex mentioned before that the IMTP has now been considered by Welsh Government and assessed as satisfactory. We had that letter earlier this week. And one of the things that we're just doing is looking at the Cabinet Secretary priorities to make sure that they align with the objectives that we've got in the IMTP. Broadly, there is alignment there. So in terms of our performance reporting, we'll be looking to draw that out in future reports, so it's clear to the board where we are in terms of delivering against each of those Cabinet Secretary priorities. If you have a look at the report, generally, I think after the first couple of months of the year, we're making reasonable progress. But what we do highlight then to the board are those areas where things are maybe slightly off track, or some early warning signs that there are things that we need to look at. And again, we've captured those within the report. Then probably just the final thing for me to highlight is underpinning all of this is something that we call a performance dashboard. It's populated across the organisation, and we'll be making that link available to board members so they can have a look at that if they wish. We're working on a tutorial video.
I was going to say, will we need some training?
Yeah,
I'll rephrase that. We will need some training.
What we didn't want to do is just issue a link out. So the team have been developing a short sort of video that will allow you to use it and understand how the dashboard works. That's more for those people who would like to sort of delve into some of the detail and maybe just sort of satisfy themselves. So there's a level of detail, so you don't have to do it, but hopefully it'll help you just understand how we're bringing all of this together through the organisation. So this is more than just a performance report that lands at board. It's part of a wider discussion through the organisation. So that's why I wanted to just sort of explain that, Chair.
And it will need to go into the induction programme.
That's correct, actually.
Okay. Any questions or comments on this new format?
Very welcome.
Enjoyed it?
Yes.
What did you say, Alan?
Great.
Oh, and you've just announced that there's a link. There we are. Best of luck. All right. So we're asked to receive this report for assurance, and also to recognise a new level of reporting and links to any depth to which you wish to dive. Yeah, thank you very much. Glyn, the Director of Finance report.
Thank you very much. Thank you. So again, I'll keep this fairly brief. This report covers the position up to the end of June. We're reporting a small surplus on our revenue budget after the first 3 months. At this stage, we're forecasting a financial balance for the end of the year. Again, what we've contained in the report, and it's in the appendices, is an analysis of the risks and opportunities that we regularly review each month. There's a lot of soft intelligence that we look at this stage of the year, particularly around our education and training, commissioning, and the cohort of students that we expect starting in the autumn. And what we try to do is reflect that soft intelligence in those risks and opportunities. And you'll see that, and this is linked to some of the conversations we've had around nursing provision in the southeast of Wales, for instance, that there will potentially be some financial flexibility that may come through as a result of the take-up of students in September. So at this stage, because we don't have definitive information on that, we use some of this soft intelligence that we have to look at what the potential risks or opportunities would be and put a financial figure to that. And I think hopefully that just helps give us a feel as a board about, are we confident that actually we can deliver financial balance, and there may be some financial flexibility during the year to help us do that. So that's contained within the report. In terms of capital, we've got our main capital programs around CODI and the IT refresh program. We're currently holding the small discretionary capital funding that we've got until we're clearer about some of those commitments and some of the funding bids that we've made to Welsh Government on CODI. And then I think probably just the third thing is just to highlight that in terms of compliance with paying invoices, we're exceeding the target after the first 3 months. So overall, I think good place to be in financially at the moment, and hopefully there, as I say, the risk analysis gives the board some insight into potential flexibility as we go through the year. But happy to take any questions. Thank you.
It's a small question. Thank you for the report, Glenn. Very easy to follow as always. It's a really small point, but it was the employer national insurance contributions, and with that we have a 0.3 million shortfall, and that risk has now materialised. Were we expecting that to be funded in full? And I'm just thinking, on the base of some other things we are expecting potentially to be funded in full, in light of any potential change. I just wondered if that was something that we had expected to be funded in full and wasn't.
So, so the original employer national insurance announcement was made by the UK government back in the autumn. At that point, I don't think it was clear about whether it would be funded. I suppose previously anything that's related to pay increases, we've always assumed there would be funding, particularly around pay awards. The national insurance one is perhaps slightly different, and I guess it was probably something that was unexpected at an All Wales level when the budget settlements were agreed between the UK and the Welsh Government. And so I suppose the short answer is we were expecting it probably to be funded in full. It hasn't been, and now this is a cost pressure that actually the whole of NHS Wales is having to manage.
All of public service.
All of public services as well, yes.
Not just within HEIW.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just linked to that point in terms of the shortfall here. Is our shortfall we've had on the funding proportionate to other health bodies, or have they, the way they've modelled it, have they not acknowledged our cost structures in terms of our pay because of our director, the ones who are not on our payroll?
So it'll be proportionate to our pay bills rather than the budgets of the organisation. because it's based on how pay costs are mapped across organisations.
Yeah, so they've got a similar percentage shortfall in other organisations
based on their pay bills, but not the size.
I don't appreciate that.
Yeah.
Any further comments or questions? Okay, so they're asked to note the performance against financial targets and note the risks and opportunities which may impact on the year-end financial position. I think we should also note the impact of the national insurance contributions on the NHS workforce in particular. It's a major driver for change. Okay, approval of HEIW's duty of quality annual report. Really interesting report.
Definitely. So this is actually the report that we actually, as a we have a statutory duty to publish on an annual basis. And actually the report describes how the duty of quality was introduced in Wales and how we actually are responsible for actually taking part in that as well. But what the report actually does set out, actually, as you can imagine, actually, we are a very different organisation to other health bodies in Wales actually, who have to implement this. But it sets out the overview of how we've actually approached it and the examples actually contained in it describe actually how we've actually taken forward these initiatives and improved actually over the last year, because this is the second report that we've actually produced, and it also gives you actually the look forward as well. We had a very positive actually feedback from our Audit Wales structured assessment on how we were implementing the duty of quality, and we were quite encouraged as a result of that. So therefore, going forward, actually what I would say is we have made very, very good progress. It positions us very well to meet the challenges going forward and actually take forward and build on the improvements that we've already undertaken. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Comments, questions? Just a reflection.
Yeah.
This quality annual report, I think, is a really important piece of work. But I think we also should recognise that we're on a journey.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the journey, for me, is the best bit about the report. Because it gives us a challenge for next year to show the impact, not just of the processes, but the impact of what we are doing in all we do across the organisation and with the people that we interface with. So I think this quality report is a fantastic opportunity to have a bit of self-reflection on it.
Mm-hmm.
And so if there are no questions or comments, I'm asking us to receive the annual quality report 24-25. And I'm asking you to note and approve the current content of the annual report for presenting to the annual general meeting in September 25. Yeah? Can you thank the team for putting together this report? Iaith Cymraeg, approval of HEIW's Welsh Language Annual Report. Lisa again.
Yeah, fi eto. A mae Nia, diolch yn fawr I Nia a'r tîm hefyd am ati sydd wedi dod â'r adroddiad hyn ati i'r bwrdd. So beth I fi yma am wneud ati yw cyflwynio adroddiad blynyddol cynllun iaith AaGIC am y flwyddyn 2024-2025 i'r bwrdd. Fel y gwelwch ati yn yr adroddiad, nid ydyn ni wedi cael unrhyw cwynion o'r Comisiynydd, a ni mewn sefyllfa da iawn ati o ran y safonau a ddeith ati mewn ati y flwyddyn nesaf. Ni wedi cyfieithu dros 5 miliwn o eiriau yn fwy na blwyddyn diwetha, a hefyd ni wedi bod yn codi ymwybodaeth ati am yr iaith Gymraeg dros ati Gymru gyfan. Felly ati'n edrych mlaen I baratoi am y safonau a diweddaru prosesau I dderbyn reina, a hefyd y cynllun cyfathrebu mewnol yn gysylltu a thimodd ati dros Gymru gyfan a mewn ati AaGIC hefyd. Felly yn gofyn ati chi dderbyn ati'r adroddiad hyn am y flwyddyn hyn.
Are there any comments or questions on this area? Again, this is a self-challenging report.
Mm-hmm.
but made progress. There's a lot going on. I think we need to be answering the question, what impact is having, and the presentations we've had earlier on clearly show that. And my witness of the way we're talking to students in particular, it was really, really heartwarming to see how people responded when it was in their home language. So you know, I think it's an important report. Challenge ourselves over for the next one.
Oh, sorry, Chair. It is a small question again on the report. Again, thank you. Really good report. And it was based on your what made me think about it was you talking about the measurable impact. And I noticed that the funding for the Agored programme is coming to an end. We're considering some alternatives. But have we got a measurable impact of that programme report that could, you know, support whatever we're doing and what we're saying next? Because it just sounded great, a good initiative.
We could add that actually to the report, and I'm looking to the other because actually the evaluation actually on that report actually was undertaken.
Yeah, we have our numbers certainly. So over 250 people attended from across. We have the institutions as well, HEIW, Public Health Wales. We also included 50 student nurses from our district as well. So good feedback to it, but we're looking at different approaches because the government are now taking more of a role in raising awareness as well. So we're collaborating with them on, for example, a series of films and events. So approaching this through a different way. And also we are looking at our resources on Gwella to reach people through that, because it was quite difficult to get people in rooms to discuss it and so on. So yeah, that
we can expand on that.
Yeah, it was sort of gone beyond the numbers to actually audit. It's a John, a so what question.
Yeah,
I'm learning from John. You know, I'm always going to ask so what.
And it was about raising confidence in individuals, isn't it? Could you have said? Yeah, very much so. But we will let you know. Yeah.
Just the importance of YouTube in communication. Amazing Radio 4 episode on the Today programme, an interview with the company director, who we're saying that we're seeing a public service broadcaster, generational change in actually paying for a license fee. And I was amazed. It's not just the younger generations. There are people in the later generations who are saying it's not the place we go. So the YouTube opportunity, for instance, and others, such platforms are a great opportunity for the promulgation of the Welsh language. And some of the Welsh language YouTubes are really accessible. They're about 90 seconds, and just the spirit of the individuals. It's a great thing to think about how we do that for the professional in health. Right. The board is asked to approve the Welsh language annual report for 24-25. Thank you. This is a really important item, 4.5, and that's the approval of our Civil Contingency Emergency Plan annual report. And is this you, Glyn?
It is me, yes.
Get all the good stuff.
Absolutely, yes. Thank you. Thanks very much. Again, I'm hoping this paper is fairly self-explanatory. We are required to submit an annual report. You'll see the format of it is quite prescriptive as well. But what it does do is it requires you to look at different emergency planning scenarios. Now, most of them would relate to the kind of work that we do in HEIW. There are one or two areas where we probably wouldn't be front and centre, so some of the major critical incidents. Nevertheless, it's really important that we have good, robust emergency planning arrangements in place. I think in addition to the annual report that we're asking the board to approve today, it's probably important just to say that we've actually done quite a lot of work this year, both in terms of things around cyber resilience, but also broader emergency planning. So we've undertaken tests with most of our directorates to test their local business continuity plans as well. And I think there's been quite a lot of education, training and learning from some of those tests that I think put us in a stronger position going forward as well. So this report's here for approval, and subject to the board being happy to sign it off, we'll submit it to I think it's NHS Wales Performance and Improvement.
Thank you. So I've got Jane and I've got Donna.
I'm always puzzled as to why this doesn't include flooding, given our location and the fact that we have actually had the building closed because of floods.
Yeah, so I think in terms of our local business continuity plans that we've got in place, it does allow for that. And as you say, we actually tested it for real last autumn.
Yeah.
Yeah, as I say, this is quite a prescriptive format that Welsh Government have asked us to work to in terms of the annual report. But our business continuity plans that we've tested locally include scenarios like not being able to use the building for whatever reason, which could include flooding.
And
I'm surprised this isn't prescribed, because I mean, Transport for Wales found themselves with a set of paddles. The thing is, if your server's on the ground floor, it's a bit, you know.
Yeah. It's even worse if it's in the basement.
Yes, and if you're
from past experience,
if your backup generators happens to be actually facing the main road where the water comes through, are we duty bound to stay by the prescription?
So in terms of producing a report for Welsh Government, there's a format, but in terms of our local business continuity plans, there we cover off things like flooding and not being, the building being compromised.
Okay.
So yeah, I'm quite comfortable that we've got arrangements in place.
Yeah, and my question falls outside of the actual report for our business continuity arrangements, which is obviously not 24/7 process. What happens if there's a large cyber attack over the weekend which impacts on our systems?
Like that to go.
So
it's got no formal arrangement.
So there are still some of us who are contactable 24/7.
But you do.
Is there always someone contactable?
Our network is provided by DHW, and they have that 24/7. And we're also part of an All Wales escalation group, so and that is constantly available and is 24/7. So when there are notifications that when it does occur, we are informed.
It'd be really good to see a cyber security and a contingency plan together.
We've just worked through that, and that's been done, and actually this whole piece of work has been done in parallel. And the exercises have been cyber or loss of systems.
I'm assured that there's that process in place. What I just didn't want not understand it with any formal arrangements that yes, there's always somebody you could potentially find, but if you all are not contactable, I didn't want it to be. But now it's
and business continuity is also to get back to the business standard that you've put in place, isn't it? So actually the answer would be that business services would need to be in place for Monday and to be able to respond, but actually there's a national solution that is 24/7.
Yeah, I'm just getting panicky of ways into systems. I have no knowledge. I'm talking from a position of no knowledge here.
I'm asking you to approve NHS Wales Emergency Planning Resilience and Response Annual Report 24/25 prior to submission to NHS Wales Performance and Improvement. Who's going to NHS Performance? So it's not going to government.
Yeah.
Do they then report to government?
Well, they are the arm of
so they are. So they're not an arm of government.
So they will.
They're not. No. I think there's a matter of understanding here in terms of governance.
So
they are not. They're not part of government. That was my understanding.
So they are tasked with managing delivery.
And so they will then report to government.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Right. HEIW standing financial instructions and delegated financial limits. Does anybody need to discuss this?
No.
Sure the order.
I think we've done it in August.
Yes.
Yes?
Yeah.
You assure me you've crawled all over
Yes.
this?
We did.
Right, Glyn, did you feel
Thanks,
that they
I
crawled
did
all
see
over
that.
this?
Absolutely,
Right.
every inch.
With that in mind, then I'm asking that we note that we reviewed and approved the revised version of HEIW standing financial instructions for adoption. When? Immediately. And review and approve the updates to the delegated financial limits as set out in Schedule 1 of the standing orders. Can I ask you to approve, please?
Yes.
Thank you. Review of strategic risk control framework. Board members read this?
Yes.
David, do you need to say anything about it?
No, it's gone through the audit committee, just to confirm that we have implemented the recommendation of the assessment with regards to the assurance, detailing a bit more information about the assurance received by each committee. No, that's fine.
Okay. And therefore, having considered it, I'm asking you to approve this strategic risk control framework as in Appendix 1, which forms a key part of the board assurance framework. Yeah, thank you very much. Speaking of safely framework, people have read this. As I was speaking of safely champion, do you wish to say anything?
Just to endorse what's in the report, and as we've already heard earlier today, we continue to innovate lanyards, for instance.
Lanyards. Simple. David, oh yes.
Yeah, just ask something. Have you got a sense of where the biggest barriers are to speaking up that might still exist? You know, whether that's by a team or with an issue or a grade. Do we have a sense of where you've got a problem?
Within the organisation, or
Yeah, generally as well. You know, are we using any of that insight to sort of come up with any of the major barriers, so at least we can tackle them one by one? And it's like just a sense of that.
I suppose you could say everywhere, because we don't have many coming through. I don't think it's quite as simple as that.
I mean, I think from an internal perspective, it is now being used. We've had 6 people who've used it this year as a mechanism for getting advice on where to go next. I think maybe through the group we can just keep an eye, understand what areas some of that might be anonymous, some of that we might not always have details. So I guess it's part of our broader understanding of the organisation, but it's something for us to think about.
Yeah.
I suppose my concern would always be around people who are in training positions who are vulnerable in terms of their progression.
Yeah.
So I think
you're thinking about that too.
There's obviously an important issue for us to consider as an employer, but I think you can see how people who are resident doctors or other people in training or learning positions, how they've got an additional challenge of speaking up. So So I think that's probably where we need to be really focusing on, which is why making sure the word is spread through the lanyards. I think really making sure we're focusing on sexual safety, because I think that's probably one of the most difficult things to speak up about, is really, really important as well. So yeah, definitely not to be complacent about any of that.
One of the lines that I think is emerging, particularly with people who have got bad experience of service, is I wouldn't want it to happen to someone else. And I don't know whether or not we communicate that what you're doing is not just opening it up for yourself, you're actually helping to prevent or to better it for others. And I think we have to have a variety of approaches as we have, but the listening has to be really subtle. It's not always going to be right in your face, like someone knocking on your door. And being mindful of just giving people the other opportunities. In general practice, certainly sitting in the GP's chair, it might take 10 or 15 consultations for someone to come up with an explanation that you'll be there for.
Yeah, so just to respond to that query as well. So there's evidence that there are improved levels of engagement in terms of 6 individuals. Also, there are more complaints and concerns coming through. We have asked staff back in October and November in terms of what are those issues, and it did kind of highlight some unexpected answers, such as the fact that we are in an open plan environment, and that can cause it to be difficult. So we would have to think about how we would deal subtly and carefully with a complaint that's raised in a kind of open plan environment. So we are asking the question with events, but obviously we're aware of the general cultural position, and there's still work to do. But we certainly highlighted and increased knowledge across the board in terms of what to do if you are in that situation.
Okay. So I think we've considered the report, and I'm asking you, I'm asking you to note the update in respect of embedding HEIW speaking up safety framework for assurance. Okay, and I think we recognise it will need continuously be gardened. Okay. 4.9, to receive key issue reports from the Audit and Assurance Committee held on the 19th of June and 3rd of July, and noting of the HEIW complaints and concerns and reports. So, Audit and Assurance Committee.
Chair, there's one alert which is on the July meeting, which is to notify the board that we received a limited assurance in the internal audit report in relation to bursary procedures. We had a detailed management response. Committees scrutinised it. There is a plan going forward, and there will be follow-up consideration to check that it's been fully implemented by the audit committee.
There's a confidence about the mitigation.
There is, and the timescales seem realistic. And as I say, the management response was detailed and understood what the issues were. Documentation of processes and procedures, for instance, and we are informed that that's in hand, and we will be checking that has been done.
Any questions or comments? So, bear with me. You've noted the content of the report from the chair of the Audit and Assurance Committee. Yeah. You note that the Audit and Assurance Committee meeting on 19th of June, the committee recommended that the annual accountability report be approved by the board for submission to Welsh Government by the 30th of June. Then approved by the board. The performance report for 24-25 be approved by the board for submission to Welsh Government by the 30th of June, and it was approved. It went off, I take it. The audit annual accounts 24-25 considered approved by the board. Letter representation presented at the board for approval, and note that at the Audit Assurance Committee on the 3rd of July, the committee notes the complaints and concerns of annual reports, considered the strategic risk and risk control framework, which we subsequently discussed today, and reviewed the HEIW standing financial instructions and the delegated financial instructions, which we approved today. You happy I've covered all that now, David? Yeah? Yes. Yes. Members of the board are asked to look at the Education Commission and Quality Committee meeting held on the 17th of July.
Yeah. Chair, just to advise, as you say, we met on the 17th of July. There's nothing to alert the board to from that meeting. And obviously, I know my colleagues will have read the report, so I don't want to draw anything else out, except that we did approve the draft Education Commission and Quality Committee annual report for 2025, and we also reviewed the terms of reference, and we agreed those subject to some further amendments in respect of the items that are identified there.
So, yeah, I'm asking you to note the contents of the report.
Sorry, Chair, can you just...
Oh, I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay, but just in light of another conversation, Tom's title needs to be amended. It says interim medical director. It's one that slipped through.
Oh, that slipped through.
Should be acting.
Fine. So note the content of the report from the chair, and note that Education Commissioning and Quality Committee meeting on the 7th of July, committee approved the ECQC annual report. Okay, thank you very much. Now, we've had a good conversation today across a lot of subjects, and the corporate risk register is there. Is there anything, Alex, you need to reflect on in the corporate risk register following today's meeting?
I don't think so. I think obviously we're waiting to see in relation to the Lang review around physician associates, what Welsh Government is going to do in terms of that report, and whether it's going to accept those recommendations. And obviously that's quite critical to how we manage that risk going forward. So that is still slightly unknown at this point, but we should be able to clarify that in by the next meeting. There is, I think, an emerging risk that we just need to quantify around the current environment that we're in, with changes in workforce positions within organisations, acceleration of transformation plans, financial pressures, etc., that we have got a robust enough approach to how we help our graduates secure employment. So that's when I think we need to just reassess in the light of the discussions we've had through the course of today.
Okay. Has anybody got any comments? John, last board meeting, you've made some reflections about changes necessary on the corporate risk register. You happy that they're covered? Okay. All right. And there are no fresh ones? No. Thank you very much. Just for noting that we've received the NHS Wales Shared Services Partnership Committee report, and ask that you note it, please. Yeah. I just need to inform the public that we did meet in committee session earlier on this morning, and that will be reported at the next call. I've not received any other urgent business, and I'm sure everybody will now be relieved. We've come to the end of a very long session today, and our next board meeting, which I see you're all fired up for, will be on the 28th of August, and that will be a board development session and a board meeting in which we will focus, promise on the education and training for linguists. Can I thank you very much, Diolch o Galon, for your concentration and for your contributions this morning. Thank you very much. Thank you.